interested in living and working in the United States, but you're not quite sure what visa options might be available to you, well, in this video today, I'm going to talk through two of the visas that I use a lot for my clients that are really flexible and really powerful to help my clients move to the US and run their US businesses and enjoy their life here with their families. So those are the E-1 and the E-2 visas. We're going to cover what's the same about these visas because they're both e-visas. They're visas from the same category. So there is a lot of similarity between them. And then we're going to cover what's different because sometimes you've heard of one or the other, but you don't quite know very much about them. You don't know which one might be best for you. And so today we're going to talk through that and the way that I talk through it with my clients. And hopefully this can be helpful for you as you're thinking about what options might be available to you in the United States for your family, your business, and your future. So let's get started. So e-visas are visas created by treaties between the United States and other countries. Not every country has an e-visa treaty. Not every country has an e-visa treaty, but many, 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 many of them do. For example, Mexico, Spain, Canada, the United Kingdom, tons of countries have e-visa treaties, but not all. So the first thing you need to know to decide if this is a visa that might be possible for you is if you are from a country that has a treaty with the United States. You can look this up online. There's a list of, if you Google e-visa countries, you'll find the immigration website that has the entire list. And something to know is that the E-1 and the E-2 are separate. So some countries have a treaty that supports both the E-1 and the E-2. Some countries just have an E-1 or just have an E-2. So it's important for you to know from the very beginning so you know which options are available to you. You don't want to move forward and learn all about the E-2 visa if you can never get one because you're not from a country with an E-2 treaty. So that's the first thing to know about these visas is that they are created by treaties. These treaties can be renegotiated from time to time, but with with many countries, they're very stable. For example, the treaty with Spain has been in place for over 100 years. It's not about to change tomorrow. So if you're from Spain and you're interested in an E-1 or E-2 visa, that's a really safe bet for you. Sometimes they can change for the better. For example, Mexico used to have an e-visa treaty that allowed for visas for 1 year. 1 year is not a very long time. That treaty was renegotiated. And now if you're from Mexico, you can get an e-visa for 4 years. That is way better. It is much more worth your time, your risk, your investment, your energy to get a 4-year visa than a 1-year visa. So that's important to know is first, are you someone who's from a treaty country? And if you are, what is the length of time that your visa would be valid for? Because each country negotiates their treaty with the United States and sets the number of years that people from that country can get an e-visa. Regardless of if you get a visa for 1 year or 5 years, that's the range, 1 to 5 years, you can always renew it. The e-visas, E-1 and E-2, are renewable forever as long as you remain eligible for them. Other visas, for example, there's a visa called the L visa, which is for intra-company transfers. And a lot of people who think about e-visas may also be eligible for L visas. Each have their own pros and cons. One con of an L visa is that you're limited. After 7 years, you're done. You can't keep going. With an E visa, you can renew forever, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, as long as your business remains eligible for that visa. So that's something really good to know. Something else that's the same about the e-visas is that you, as the person applying for your visa, will get a work permit to work in the e-visa company. So that's the company doing business here in the United States. You'll be able to live and work in the United States while you work in your e-visa company. If you're married, your spouse will also get a work permit, and that work permit will be unrestricted. Your spouse will be able to work anywhere in the United States that they may want to work, which is really wonderful for families where both partners want to be able to continue their careers, to continue the development of their work. And your partner doesn't have to give that up if you want to get an e-visa. So that's really exciting. Your children will be able to get visas as well. If you get an e-visa, any of your kids who are under 21 can get an e-visa also. which is really great. They'll be able to go to school in the United States, but they won't be able to work in the United States as the children of an e-visa holder. The last thing that's the same about these visas, which follows from our last point, is that these visas do not directly lead to a green card or citizenship. That is really important to know because you want to think about your long-term plans. Now, it is very possible, and this is something I suggest to my clients frequently, that we get you here using an e-visa because it can be really fast, really flexible. Then once you're in the United States, we can see if there is a way to apply for your green card in another way. Being here on an e-visa doesn't prevent you from applying for a green card if you're eligible for one. It just does not itself give you a direct e-visa green card path. That's not a thing. So just something to keep in mind because you want to go forward with your plan, knowing all the options long term and thinking about everything holistically. So that's the e-visa. They're visas created by treaties between the U.S. and your country. If you're from an e-visa country, you can get a visa for yourself to work in the e-visa business. Your spouse can get an unrestricted work permit to work anywhere, and your kids can live and go to school here with you until they're 21. You can renew your e-visa indefinitely as long as you become eligible. So, how are you eligible? Let's talk first about the E-1 visa. Many businesses are eligible for both E-1 and E-2, so it's going to be important for you to understand if your business is eligible for E-1, E-2, or both, and if you're eligible for both, to determine which visa matches your long-term goals for yourself and your business and your family and your future here in the United States. An E-1 is an import-export visa. The E-1 visa is designed for existing businesses, either U.S. businesses or foreign businesses that have ongoing international trade between the United States and your home country, the E-visa country. International trade is not just the stuff you think of, like big shipping containers being shipped across the country and across the world. It is that, but it's more than that too. So my clients who have E-1 visas get their E-1 visas either because they engage in international commerce through the exchange of goods or services. So I have clients who import and export food products from Mexico to the United States, or from the United States to Mexico. That is a clear case of an international exchange, import-export business, and that can make you eligible for an e-visa. But services, exchange of services in international commerce can also make you eligible for an e-visa. So think about it like this. Say you have a software company. You have your software company in Mexico, you have your software company in the United States. The bigger business is in Mexico, but you have a U.S. entity where you sell your software services to U.S. clients. Once you find those U.S. clients, the U.S. company that you own sends the work back to Mexico. The software engineers in Mexico do the work for the clients you found in the U.S. They send the work back to the U.S. clients when it's finished. That is an international exchange of services, and that could qualify you for an E-1 visa if that's your company. So it can be really flexible, and a lot of people don't know that it exists or don't understand that their business might be eligible. So I want you to know what it looks like, what kind of flexibility it offers you in case this is a good fit for you and for your company. To be eligible for an E-1 visa, you have to have existing ongoing trade. An E-1 visa is not forward-looking, so a plan to have trade won't qualify you for the visa. We have to be able to show international trade exists and is ongoing, and that that trade is substantial. Of course, the law does not define substantial, so that's my job as the attorney to make the argument about what substantial looks like for you and your company. Substantial means that the exchanges in international commerce are not isolated. They are continual and ongoing, and that they are of a high enough volume to have an impact and to matter to your company. So if you ship products, but most of your products are shipped domestically within Spain, or within Mexico, within Colombia. But once a month, you ship products between Spain and the US. That's probably not going to be substantial. What the government wants to see to give you an import-export E-1 visa is a meaningful, ongoing, powerful exchange of goods. So if the entire purpose of your business is international exchange of goods, now we're getting closer to a good E-1 case. If you have a huge company and you do a lot of domestic exchange, but you also do a really high volume of international exchange, that might work as well. Each case is unique and is going to take the analysis of someone experienced and knowledgeable in this area to help you understand how strong your case may be, or if you have a case in this area. But if you do anything in international commerce, whether that's an exchange of goods or an exchange of services, I want you to think about the E-1 visa and know that it might be possible for you. All right, so that's the E-1. The E-1 visa is for import-export services and allows you to come to the United States to continue to work in that import-export business. What's the E-2 visa? The E-2 visa is an investor visa. Now, when I say investor visa, sometimes people think, oh, I don't have that much money. That's not me. I don't want you to think that way. You may have heard of the investor visa where you have to spend $2 million. That is a different thing. This is something we are talking about that is much more limited and focused. You can get an E-2 visa with $100,000 and often with less. What we need to show to get an E-2 visa is that you have an active company in the United States and that there is a plan for that company to be profitable over the next 5 years. What does that mean? So you have to have a U.S. company. In the E-1 visa, we talked about how you could have a U.S. company or a foreign company. For an E-2 investor visa, you have to have a U.S. entity. So that's step one. You have to form a company in the United States. You can form it anywhere. I mean, Texas, Delaware, Florida. There are a lot of good reasons to form companies in a number of different states. It's going to depend on your needs. But if you have a U.S. company, that's step one. Step two is your business real and active? Almost any kind of business will qualify you for an E-2 investor visa, as long as it does something. It has to do something to serve the public. What does that mean? That means your business cannot just hold money in a bank account. That's not enough. Your business cannot just hold real estate without doing something else. You can definitely have a business around real estate as long as it provides a good or a service to the community. So I live in Austin. The housing market here is out of control, out of control. On my block, there are like 6 houses that are being flipped this year, at least. As we walk around the neighborhood, we see a ton of houses being flipped, remodeled, and resold for a higher profit. That's a very viable business. Yes, it involves real estate, but it's not just holding real estate. The people who are flipping those houses are employing people to do the construction, to do the remodel, to do the marketing, the sales. That's a business that's really doing something. Yes, it's something to do with real estate, but it's not just passive real estate holdings. So that's an important distinction. The only thing that really won't work are passive businesses that don't do anything. As long as your business does something, it can count for an E-2 visa. Now, what I don't want you to hear is, I can't start a new business and get an E-2 visa. Yes, you can. You can start a new business and you can get an E-2 visa. You can start a new business and you can get an E-2 visa before your business is up and running and serving the public, but you have to be making plans to move that way. So I've gotten visas for my clients who are about to open retail locations, but who can't open them because they're not yet in the US with their visa. They need to be here to run their business. But we've been able to show we spent money on equipment. We have an office lease. We have an employee. We're ready. We're ready to start business as soon as you give me my E-2 visa. Thank you so much, US government, right? So that's what we want to be able to do, is show for you that you have a real and active business. And what that means is either you're already serving the public or you're about to. You're just waiting on your visa. And there are a lot of different ways to show that. The next thing you have to show is that you have invested money and that your money has really been spent and it is at risk. That's what we have to show. We have to show you have invested money that you're not going to get back if the business doesn't do well. The US government requires, in order to give you an E-2 investor visa, that you have put a substantial amount of money at risk in the business before getting your visa. Now that's scary. I understand that's really scary. And my clients find this scary too. You don't know if it's going to work out. You don't know if you're going to get the visa. You don't know if the business is going to go well. But that's the risk you have to take And it's a calculated risk. You can do this risk in a way that is smart, right? You can do your research. You can find the right business. You can have a business plan. You can find a good attorney who knows what she's doing. You can do all the things that you know how to do to minimize risk. And so when you take this risk of spending your money before you have the visa, you'll be doing so in a way that is smart and calculated and not unmitigated, right? So yes, you have to take a risk, but you can take some smart risks by picking a good business, picking good business partners, and working with trusted professionals who know what they're doing in this space. So how much money do you have to spend? That's the $1 million question, right? And the answer is not $1 million, probably. The law does not have any minimum amount of money that you have to spend. So that's the good news. The bad news is the law has no minimum amount of money that you have to spend, so there's no guidance on what you need to spend. But that's not really true. There is definitely guidance, it's just not concrete. And that's why having a trusted attorney work with you is really helpful. So what the law says is that you have to spend enough money to make your business work. If you're going to start a new business and you're going to manufacture products, and the manufacturing process is very expensive, well, $100,000 is probably not going to be enough for you to get that business running. You might need to invest $800,000, $1.2 million for your particular business to function. But say you have a flower shop. You're going to have a flower shop. It's one location at the local mall. You have found your space. You've priced out how much your office lease is. You know how much your inventory will cost. You'll need one employee to start because you'll also be working in the business. And a $50,000 investment might be enough for that. $75,000, probably more than enough to get that business up and running. So that's the argument we have to make to win your case for an E-2 visa, is the money that you have spent is enough money to really make a viable business and to open it and start serving the public. All right. And last but not least, we have to show that your business will be profitable and will be profitable above and beyond what you need to live. So the purpose of this visa is to have a positive impact on the U.S. economy. So the U.S. government wants to know that when you get this visa, you're going to run a business that puts money into the local economy. You can do that by hiring employees, hiring contractors, hiring other professionals, or showing that you will run a business that will be extremely profitable above and beyond the money that you need to pay your salary and your rent and to live in the United States. What the government wants to know is that this is not just a vehicle for your visa. It's really going to be a viable business. And we do that by having a 5-year business plan that we submit with your visa. So that's required. For an E-2 visa, we have to have a 5-year business plan to show your projections over 5 years and how at the end of those 5 years, your business will be profitable and will be stable in the United States. All right. We've talked about the similarities among the E-visas. We've talked about the differences between the E-1 visa, which is for imports and exports, and the E-2 visa, which is for investors in the United States. Both of these visas are really powerful, and both of them are available for owners or employees. So let's talk about that. You can get an E-visa as the owner of a company if you own at least 50% of that business. It's okay if a lot of other people own the business too. If you own at least 50%, you can get a visa as an employee. I'm sorry. If you own at least 50%, you can get a visa as an owner. And that would be either as an investor or as a treaty trader is the word that is used in the law. If you don't own at least 50% of your business, that's okay. A lot of times I have clients come to me who own 25%. They have founded a company with 3 partners and they only own 25% of the business. It can be very hard to get them an owner visa with only 25%, because to get an owner visa, we have to show that you alone can control the company. Well, obviously you can't do that if you're one of 4 equal partners, but we can get you a visa as an executive. Executive visas are 100% possible. We prove the same things that we do for any of the other kinds of E-visas. The only thing we have to prove on top of that is that you, in fact, are qualified to fill this executive role. For most of my clients, that's a no-brainer. They have executive experience. They're serving in an executive role in the company right now, it's easy to prove that you are qualified for this role if you are in fact doing that work right now. Now, if you've never worked in a corporation before, you've never served in an executive or director function, it can be harder to prove that you really are qualified for this executive role. Not impossible, but harder. But if you're in a situation where you're already running parts of the business, you're going to easily qualify as an executive, and we can get you that executive e-visa, no problem. And it's exactly like your visa if you were an owner. It'll be for the same number of years, the same renewability, the same, it will still allow your spouse and kids to be here with you. Your spouse can work. The rules are the same for the owner or employee visas. There are 3 kinds of employee visas. We have executive, managerial, or specialized. You want to be an executive or managerial employee if you can. That's because for an executive or managerial employee, we don't have to show there's someone else in the U.S. who can't do the job. If we are going to ask for a specialized employee visa, what we're saying is that you have such specialized knowledge about this company that there's no one in the United States who can possibly do that work. Now, that is a much harder argument to make. The United States is a very big place, and it can be possible to find people to do all kinds of jobs. It can be possible the first time to make an argument about a specialized employee needing a visa because, say, you've worked in the business for 4 years, you know everything about that business, you have the specialized knowledge. But the government is going to want to see that eventually, sure, you can move to the United States right now as a specialized employee, but they're going to expect you to train somebody else here in the next 4 years. And so by the time you renew, we won't be able to prove there's nobody else who can do the work. So let's set that one aside for now, because for most of my clients, we can very quickly find a way to make a good argument that they are either owners or executives in their business, and in that way get them an E-1 import-export visa or an E-2 investor visa in the United States. I hope this has been really helpful. If you want to talk through the options for you and your business, give me a call. Let's set up a time to chat. I do strategy sessions for business visas. They are $400. And with that $400, I ask you to send me a whole bunch of information before the consultation. I collect info about you, your business, your goals. Then we sit down for an hour and I talk through what your objectives are. Okay, what are you looking to do? What are you worried about? What's keeping you from doing it right now? And really talk through all, not just these e-visas, but all the other kinds of visas that might get you to where you want to be. And then I give you your options. I say, okay, here are the pros and cons of each one. What are you thinking? And then after that strategy session, I follow up with any outstanding questions that might be lingering from our session, because each case is unique. And so sometimes things come up that I want to learn a little more about before guiding you to the best option for you. We review any outstanding questions, and then you and I meet again. And so that's what you get for that $400 business visa consultation. We get a strategy session to really evaluate all your options and give you really all the information you need to make an informed decision for you and your family. If that sounds like something that might be useful to you, give me a call, 512-675-2945. I love guiding my clients through this process and helping you understand what your options are and feeling empowered to make the right choice for you and your families. I've seen a lot of positive changes in the lives of my clients, and I'm really happy for them when they get their visas and I can see them move to the US and I get to meet them, which is really exciting. And so I hope for that for you. If that sounds like a good fit, give us a call. We'd love to help. Bye.